So for this one, we're doing it in 2 stages. The first is we're putting the tenderloin into the oven or air fryer. So you're going to need a big cutting board for that, for the meat prep. You're going to want to have a big pan for your oven. You want to put some aluminum foil on top of that so it doesn't leak and stick to the bottom and cook on. A lot of cleaning needed. You're going to want to have a small knife for prep work, large knife for chopping it up. You also want to have this 2-pronged fork. You also want to go with some tongs. And if you're doing the sauce, you also want to have a spatula and a pan and some measuring spoons and a measuring cup. With that, let's get to the ingredients. Since Easter's approaching and a lot of people use ham, I wanted to do some pork Marsala today, but this is going to be great any time of the year. So what we're going to do is we're going to start by cooking the pork tenderloin in the air fryer, and I'm going to have a crust on that and it'll be delicious by itself. So if you just want to do that and skip the Marsala sauce, what you'll need is the tenderloin, some olive oil to rub it down with, Italian seasoning, crushed rosemary, any sort of a garlic blend that you like, some pepper, garlic cloves, and that's it. If you want to do the Marsala, we're going to use some of the same ingredients, but you want to start with the Marsala wine. Now, I like the sweet, but if you want it more savory, you can go with the other type. We also need some olive oil for cooking. I'm using some fat-free half and half today, but you can use anything you want. If you want cream or if you want milk, up to you. I'm just using the half and half because I wanted to cut down on a few calories and not do full cream. You're going to need some unsalted beef stock. You could go with salted if you want, but since pork is already a little salty, you might want to skip that. We're going to need some butter, and we're going to be making a roux. So that means you also have to have some flour for that. And then for the veggies, we're going to have an onion, some mushrooms. We're also going to use the garlic cloves for the sauce as well. And this we're using some fresh seasoning. So we have some rosemary, thyme, and oregano, but you can use dried if you want to. And at the end, we're going to garnish. I'm going to be using chives, but you could do parsley, and it would be very, very good with some capers. Unfortunately, capers and I don't get along too well, so I can't use that. So what I'm going to do is start with taking this out, washing it off, and then I'm going to show you what to do with the fat and how to put these in. So with that, I'm going to go to the sink. See you in a bit. Okay, the pork's been washed down and we patted it dry and then washed our hands and sanitized everything. So before we go and start working on taking care of the pork loin itself, I'm going to make the spice blend. That way I can put on those fancy black gloves and not have to worry about cross-contamination. So we're going to start with the rosemary. This is as much or as little as you want. You just want to make sure that you can coat everything and have a nice crust on the outside. Then you're going to go in with the Italian. I'd lean into that one the most because it has the most flavors. Some pepper, however much you want. You can also reserve this and just sprinkle the pepper on afterwards. That's perfectly fine too. But like I said, don't want to accidentally get pork meat on any of my spices. And then your garlic herb blend. That's also a good one to have quite a bit of. And just stir it all around. We're going to add just a little bit more since we do have 2 tenderloins to work with, but about the same ratios. And that's all you're going to need. Okay, after you peel off the garlic, you're going to want to go ahead and get rid of the tops and any bad spots that you might have. Sometimes it's easier than others. We're doing 2 different things with the garlic today. So for going into the pork, this clove is the perfect size for what we want to do. So just, like I said, take the top off, set that aside. Now, for the sauce, we're going to want it sliced and we're going to want it thin. So go ahead and take it, slice down like that, and you're good to go. So if you don't have small pieces like that, just take one of the larger ones and just do about the same size in strips like this. Okay, now that we're ready for that, when we finish processing this, put these into the pork, get the pork going. Okay, now that everything's going, I've got my black gloves on. First time using these, we'll see how they work. Now you want to get all this silver skin or fat, whichever way you want to call it. You want to get it off, so best thing to do is find a spot that you can pull on. Just start working the knife underneath it until you can grab it a little better. You want just as thin as possible because you don't want to take any of the meat if you can help it. A little hard when it folds under the meat like that. And just kind of work it until you get most of this off. Like I said, you go underneath, just like that. Sometimes it's easier, sometimes it's harder. Just the way it is. So just keep going. When you find little bits, pick it up. And you're just going to keep going until you have as much of this off as possible. Okay, finished butchering this all down, out the air fryer going. You can hear that in the background. So this is the type of stuff you really want to get off there. That's the silver skin. You can have some of the fat. It doesn't matter if that stays on, but as much as you can get off, you probably want to. So what we're going to do first is drizzle this with some olive oil. Don't worry if some rolls off to the side. You've got to do all parts of it. So I'd also like to point out that I've already pre-cut some holes into here for the garlic. So it might have been better to start with that first. And I just made little X's. Okay, you're just going to go through, put those in. Yep, definitely should have done this before. Okay, after you do all that, I'll take care of the rest later to keep the video a little shorter. Just rub the garlic or the olive oil down all over. That's why I said don't worry if it runs off a little. Just move it around, get it all nice and coated. Then you're going to take your blend and just sprinkle it over the top. Rub that in. Turn and try to get all sides. And just keep going like this until you're done. Then we're going to put it into our air fryer. We're going to try it for 8 minutes at 350. Flip it, see how it's going. And we'll get to that in a few minutes. Make sure to always sanitize your workspace afterwards, just in case. I was planning on putting these into the air fryer basket, but as you can see, they are too long. If you run into this problem, all you need to do is take out your bigger pan for the air fryer, line it with some aluminum foil, spray it down with oil, and that should be big enough. You can also try to curl them more if you want to, just try not to crowd them together too much. Okay, this has been in the air fryer for 8 minutes, so we're going to check the temperature. Don't go all the way in, you just want to make sure that you're about halfway through to get what's in the middle. And we're at 94, 95 degrees there. Let's try this one. A little higher because this was in the back. This one's at 120, so that's getting a little high for what we want. So what we're going to do is we're going to flip these around. And when I put it back in the oven, if yours is like mine where the back cooks more than the front, this was in the back, so we're going to have that be in the front. This was in the front, so that's going to be in the back. Okay, we're going to go for another 5 minutes since this one's pretty close and check at that point. Okay, so this one ended up being 140, the other one was not. So what I'm going to do is put some foil on this, let it rest for 5-10 minutes, then we're going to slice it up, and you can see it looks really good as it is. The other one I put back in the air fryer, and I'm broiling that just to get a crispier skin so you can see how both go. So just put it on something that's not going to leak, you know, has the nice little edges, and just loosely cover it. And you'll be good. Okay, our second one's done, and this one's been resting, so we're just going to take the aluminum foil straight off of this, Put it onto there, let it rest. And like I said, this is going to be delicious by itself without the Marsala sauce. So we're just going to slice that up, and tomorrow I'm going to use the leftovers with the Marsala. So you'll see that process in a bit. So just take your 2-pronged fork, your big knife, start slicing. Whatever size you want. Now it's still a little pink, but it is cooked all the way through, so you don't have to worry about that. And you get the nice cloves of garlic. Oh, it's very good. So I'm going to plate this up, have my dinner, and I'll see you guys tomorrow for some more filming. So we don't want whole mushrooms in there this time. It's a little big for what we're doing with the Marsala, but we don't want them super small either. So we're going to slice them, but pretty thick, because they will be in there while we're reducing the sauce. And if we leave them too thin, they're just going to reduce down to mush. And that's not something you really want with that. So, 3-4 pieces, and you'll be good. Okay, our onion's pretty big today, so we're not going to use all of it. So probably about 1/4 with it being this size, but that's up to you, however much you want. First, cut off the little tail part. And because it is so big, if you want to use that big knife, go ahead and do that. But go through the bulb, or the roots. Set those aside. And we're going to do a similar trick that we usually do, but since we're using less onion this time, a little bit different. So instead of going all the way, just go about halfway. And once again, just make the little slices. Work your way through. And then just go in like this for nice little diced pieces. And since you only went halfway, now you have the rest of this to do whatever you want. If you want to do strips later, you can still do that. Or if you want to have some onions on something else that are diced, you can still go all the way and finish it off that way. All right, let's get to the next step. Okay, so you're going to preheat your pan, and then you're going to go in with some olive oil, and we're going to cut down on some of the butter by using that. And once you have the olive oil in, you're going to add the onions. Stir those around, get them all nice and coated. Then you're going to be cooking these for about 2 to 3 minutes. You want them to start getting some color on them, but you don't need to have them get super translucent yet because they're going to be in here for a while, and we're going to be reducing the sauce so it'll cook even more at that point. So after we do that, we'll throw the mushrooms in, and then we're going to work on the roux. Now it's time to put the mushrooms in. We're not going to cook these as long as usual because, like I said, we are going to be reducing it for about 10 minutes when we get all the liquid in. So just 2, maybe 3 at the most of the mushrooms. As soon as they start shrinking and sweating down just a little bit, that's when we'll start going in with the flour and the butter. And after a minute, go ahead and throw your garlic in as well. Okay, it's time to make the roux. And roux is basically any fat mixed with butter. So that's the first thing. Drop in your butter. We're doing 2 tablespoons today. Let that start melting. Now, if you want to skip the oil and do extra butter, you don't need to do this part. You'll just go right into the flour. But I like to have both of the different ones going for the different cooking. The butter can eventually kind of, I don't know if boil off is the right word, but get a little weaker. So we're going to do this until it's all melted. And then we're going to go ahead and put the flour in, and that's going to be a 1/4 cup. That's close enough for our purposes right now. Drop in the flour. Now keep the cup handy because you're going to need that for some of the other ingredients. And just move this around. You also might want to lower the heat so you don't burn it. You see it's starting to come together. You just want it to absorb all the liquids that are in the pan. Work on this for about a minute and a half, 2 minutes. You want to get the flour toasted or else it'll just taste like raw flour later. And then once you're done with that, we'll go in with the Marsala. Okay, now that we have a nice blonde roux, you can go different shades. I don't like to mess around with that too much, easy to overburn it. We're going in with 2/3 of a cup of the Marsala. And what we're going to do is we're going to raise the temperature just a little bit so that it can start boiling. Once it's been boiling for about a minute, then you're going to go in with your beef stock, lower the temperature again, and then we're going to add the cream. So just spread that all out. Raise your heat. And you're just doing this so that the alcohol boils off. Hey, this is what I mean. You don't have to have it a full boil, just bubble. And you can see it's also caramelizing a little bit. So we've been doing that for about a minute and a half. So now we're going to go in with our stock, and that's also going to be 2/3 of a cup. You're going to mix this and also use this as a chance to deglaze. If you have anything that's stuck to the bottom. And we're going to lower the temperature again to a low medium heat. Now this is where you're also going to go in with your fresh herbs. Now you can just put them in by themselves and then pull them out later. The flavor will get in there. But if you don't mind and you would like to have some of the pieces in, just grab it by the stalk. Just peel along down. You can do the same with the rosemary. Just break it up so you don't have too many big chunks in there. The oregano is a little bit harder because it's more leafy, but same principle. You don't want to have any of the stems in there if you can help it. Then let that sit for another minute, and then we're going to add the half and half. Okay, now that we've gotten all that in and stirred around and letting them start break down a little bit, we're going in with our half and half. That's 1/3 of a cup, but it all depends. If you want it creamier, go ahead and feel free to add more. Just want a nice light brown color when you mix everything in. Now we're going to reduce this for a little bit, not too long, because it's a little thicker than the last time I made it. So last time I did about 10 minutes. This time I think I'm only going to do 5. So we're going to lower the temperature to simmer. Stir this around. This is also when you're going to add your salt and pepper. Once again, to taste. And be wary of the salt because, like I said earlier, pork is already salty. Okay. Now, if you are doing the sauce the same time you're doing the pork loins, you can just have this sit there and you don't have to do anything. Just stir it around, make sure it doesn't burn to the bottom, and then you can just pour it over the pork. I'm doing leftovers today. That's one of the things I actually love to show on this channel, is that you can do different stuff with your leftovers. So, to heat up the pork, we're going to put that in now too, so it can be heating alongside. Okay, so just check on this every now and then. You can tell it's your desired thickness. And like I said, maybe 5 minutes at the most for how it is right now. And then we'll go from there. Okay, now that this has been reducing and it's really nice and thick, we're ready to go ahead and serve. So you can put this on a baked potato. It would be absolutely delicious. Like I said, if you were doing your pork by yourself, the first night you could just drip this onto the pork loin. Doesn't that look good? Then we're going to go in with a little fresh asparagus on the side here. And that's it. That's our dinner. Thank you very much for watching.